A volcano exploded. Lava flowed everywhere. The ground shook. Trees burned. Animals fled. It was pure destruction. But when the lava cooled, something impossible happened. Where the molten rock met sand, something transparent formed. Something smooth. Something that let light pass through it. Nobody understood what had just been created. They didn't have a name for it, but they noticed something. When you looked through it, you could see objects on the other side. It was like looking through water, except it was hard. It was solid. This accident, a volcanic eruption creating something unprecedented, would eventually lead to the invention of one of humanity's most transformative materials. A material so useful, so versatile, so essential that modern civilization literally cannot exist without it. But here's the crazy part. Humans spent thousands of years not knowing how to replicate what nature had accidentally created. They saw glass in nature, obsidian, volcanic glass, but they couldn't figure out how to make it intentionally. The breakthrough, when it finally came, wasn't from smart people in laboratories. It was from people working with fire, people who were trying to do something completely different. People who accidentally discovered how to turn sand into something magical. Long before anyone invented glass, obsidian existed. Volcanic glass, created naturally when lava cooled rapidly. It's black. It's razor sharp. Early humans recognized it immediately. This is better than flint, someone said, probably 100,000 years ago. Look at the edge. It's sharper, it cuts better. Obsidian became prized. People traded it across continents. Obsidian from one volcano would show up thousands of miles away. It was valuable. It was sought after. It was the premium tool material. But obsidian was rare. You could only find it near ancient volcanoes. If you lived far from volcanic regions, you couldn't get it. You were stuck with flint or stone, second-rate materials. Humans looked at obsidian and thought, there has to be a way to make this. People tried. They heated stones, they cooled them. Nothing worked. You couldn't replicate obsidian through trial and error. It required a specific natural process, rapid cooling of specific volcanic minerals that humans couldn't control. So obsidian remained a luxury. A rare material that only people near volcanoes could access easily. But then, something changed. Around 3000 BC, someone noticed something strange happening with sand. Sand that had been near intense heat, really intense, beyond what normal fire could produce, was changing. It was becoming translucent, clear. What is that? Someone asked. I don't know. It's hard. It's smooth. It's different. They didn't realize they were holding the first human-made glass. They didn't understand what had happened, but they noticed it had properties similar to obsidian. It was hard, it could be sharp, and most importantly, it was transparent. This discovery changed everything, but humans didn't immediately understand the implications. The truth is, glass wasn't invented deliberately. It was discovered by accident. Around 3000 BC, in Mesopotamia and Egypt, metalworkers were doing something radical. They were trying to make copper, bronze, and other metals. They needed intense heat, way beyond normal campfire heat. So, they built furnaces, massive structures made of clay and stone, designed to reach temperatures of 1700 plus degrees Celsius. These furnaces were fed with wood, charcoal, burning fuel constantly. Inside these furnaces, they'd place metal ore. They'd let it heat. They'd extract the metal. But here's what happened. The sand on the ground inside and around the furnace, sand used as insulation, sand stuck to materials, started melting. At temperatures above 1700 degrees, silica, the main component of sand, doesn't just heat up. It melts. It transforms into liquid. When that liquid cooled, sometimes slowly, sometimes quickly, it became glass. At first, people thought it was contamination. Why is there glass mixed with our copper? They complained. This is ruining our metals. But someone, maybe a slave worker, maybe an apprentice, maybe just someone paying attention, noticed something. Wait, this glass stuff, it's actually useful. Useful how? It's transparent. You can see through it. It's hard. It won't break easily. What if we made more of this intentionally? So they started experimenting. They took sand. They heated it to extreme temperatures, not in a furnace filled with metal ore, just sand, alone, exposed to the heat. First attempts failed. The sand would just turn into a melted blob, useless. But they kept trying. They adjusted temperatures. They experimented with different types of sand, different cooling methods. Then, around 1500 BC, someone cracked the code. By carefully controlling heat temperature and cooling speed, you could make intentional glass. You could shape it. You could control its properties. You could make objects, containers, vessels, decorative items out of pure glass. This was revolutionary. Suddenly, a material that was previously only available through lucky accidents could be made on demand. But early glass had massive problems. Early glass was terrible. It was fragile. It cracked easily. If you made a glass container and someone dropped it, shattered, gone. It was opaque, not truly transparent. You could see light through it, but objects on the other side were blurry. It was greenish or brownish in color because impurities in the sand created discoloration. It was thick and heavy. You needed massive amounts of material to create even small objects. It was incredibly expensive to produce. You needed furnaces, hot enough to melt sand. That required fuel, lots of money. Only the wealthiest could afford glass items, and it had limited uses. Without modern technology, what could you actually do with glass? Make decorative items? Containers that break easily? It seemed impractical. For hundreds of years, glass remained a curiosity, a luxury item for the rich. Look at my glass vase, see how expensive I am. But then, around 50 BC, someone made a breakthrough that changed everything. The blowing technique. Someone, probably a Syrian craftsman, discovered that if you attached glass to a hollow metal tube and blew through it, the glass would expand. You could shape it. You could create hollow objects without needing massive solid pieces. This changes everything, craftsmen realized. Suddenly, you could make glass vessels that weren't solid bricks of glass, containers that were actually practical, objects that were lighter, items that were cheaper to produce. The glass-blowing technique spread like wildfire. Within decades, glass production exploded. What was once a rare luxury became, well, still expensive, but accessible to more people. But the real revolution came much, much later. Around the 1600s, 1700s, something dramatic happened. Craftsmen figured out how to make clear glass. Perfect clarity, no impurities, no discoloration. How? By using different materials, different temperatures, refining the process to an extreme degree. Clear glass opened possibilities nobody had imagined. What if we made glass lenses, someone thought? What if we put multiple pieces together to make magnification devices? What if we used glass to study things we couldn't see with normal eyes? The microscope was invented. The telescope was invented. Suddenly, humans could see the microscopic world and the distant universe. Then came eyeglasses, corrective lenses that could fix vision problems. Then came windows, something we take for granted today, but was revolutionary when it was invented. Imagine, you could have light in your home without opening shutters. You could see outside without exposure to elements. Glass transformed civilization, not because it was the hardest material, not because it was the most beautiful, but because of one property: transparency. That one property, the ability to see through something solid, unlocked infinite possibilities. When people could finally see using glass, through microscopes and telescopes, everything changed. Galileo looked through a telescope and saw mountains on the moon. He saw moons orbiting Jupiter. Suddenly, the universe wasn't what people thought. The church had been wrong about basic cosmology. This single act, looking through glass at the sky, started a scientific revolution. Van Leeuwenhoek looked through a microscope and saw bacteria, creatures so small humans couldn't see them with naked eyes. This discovery explained diseases, it explained infection, it changed medicine forever. But here's what's insane. None of this happens without glass. The telescope needs glass. The microscope needs glass. Eyeglasses need glass. Without glass, we don't see bacteria, so we don't understand disease transmission. We don't see distant planets, so we don't challenge religious cosmology. We don't invent corrective lenses, so vision-impaired people suffer. We don't have windows, so buildings are dark and cold. We don't have light bulbs, glass bulbs, so we stay dependent on candlelight. Modern civilization, literally everything we take for granted, depends on glass. But it gets even more incredible. Glass isn't just useful for looking through. It's used in LCD screens, your phones, TVs, computers, fiber optics, the internet. Yes, light travels through glass to transmit data. Laboratory equipment, medical devices, solar panels, touchscreens. The material that was discovered by accident in a metalworker's furnace became the foundation of modern technology. We invented smartphones using principles discovered by accident 3,000 plus years ago. We transmit information across oceans using glass fiber optics, the same transparent principle that Galileo used to see Jupiter's moons. This is the absurd reality: an accident, a mistake, sand melting in a hot furnace. That single accident started a chain reaction that led to the scientific revolution, the industrial revolution, modern medicine, modern computing, modern civilization itself. And it all started because someone paid attention to something other people thought was garbage: contamination.